Welcome back to episode 14 of this Korean series. This is the final episode. There's only 10 hours left until I have to fly back home to OCE. So whether or not we get masters, it is decided in this video. Every single game we play from here on out is critical. In game number 1, we're of course playing Braum. This Nautilus didn't show up to lane, so I went into the tri-bush trying to figure out where he was. I thought he might have been on the other side of the map, but it turns out he was just slow to lane. Because Nautilus survived my ignite, I'm now in a position where I know the enemy jungler won't be here for at least 15 seconds. We watched him die on our side of the map, which means we've got a couple of options. We could of course let the Nautilus get through or recall, but I think the best choice is to just keep stopping his back. I know it wastes my time, but it's more important to create an experience gap between the Nautilus and our Draven, and hopefully we can use that to get an edge in the future. I was in the process of dropping vision on the tri-bush. The enemy jungler, he's going to be showing up soon. He was on that gromp earlier, and as I was pathing through, Nautilus got an extremely cheeky Q onto me. With him being such low health, I just wasn't expecting him to go for that, but hey, turned out to be very profitable for him. Honestly, in hindsight, the pathing I took to go drop that ward was abysmally greedy, and it showed because clearly not playing as safe as I could. Let's put it that way. Despite the fact that we handed over 2 kills and they only handed over 1, if you just isolate the bot lane, it isn't as bad as it seems because Corki didn't pick up any of the kills, only assists. We're even then thrown a bone by the enemy Nautilus. He's gone top lane to gank, leaving his ADC very vulnerable. Corki had already used all his summoner spells to survive the last engagement. This time, not so lucky. We do the tower dive, no one dies, and Draven, he's now sitting on 2 kills. So far, we're getting extremely lucky. Both our top lane and mid lane, they've been getting ganked, but turning it around in their favor. This is what I assume is putting pressure on the Nautilus to make plays, even though he probably shouldn't. 1 minute later, the Corki, he hasn't returned to the bot lane, which allows us to finish off the tower and head to the mid lane, looking to get more platings. Just like that, we pick up 2 more kills. The scoreline, it's now 15 kills to 6 at 12 minutes. We are crushing the enemy team. Here's some advice that even high elo players do not take. My Lilia is trying to go for the Corki kill, so instead of pathing towards, I path away, I set up vision, and it looks exactly how I would play, even if she wasn't going for the kill. It's so important to not be obvious. Stop giving away what your team wants to do. I'd be absolutely lying if I didn't tell you that I was shocked the enemy team didn't forfeit after all dying in the mid lane. Come on, guys. It's 15 minutes and we're in Korea. How are they not forfeiting? It's so funny. We played on this server for like 12 days or so, and my mentality just completely changed. Getting a 15-minute forfeit back in OCE is just almost unheard of. I mean, even sometimes if there's an AFK, they're not gonna bloody forfeit. Anyway, maybe the enemy team should have considered it this game because we just started running them down. Kayn was just flying around the map, getting picked off. Once he did die, we went for the Baron, cleaned that up, and then after a quick back, we found ourselves pushing into the enemy base. The enemy team didn't really put up a fight, they just let us end. It's probably safe to assume they had someone hostaging them. Game number 2, the enemy, they have a Nunu and a Pike, so it's a safe bet that they're going to invade. I said it's a safe bet that they're going to invade. I tend to do this thing where I sacrifice my win condition in the bot lane to try and help others. We did it this game as well. We burnt our flash, got a kill onto Diana. A lot of the times when I do it, I don't necessarily get punished, but in this case, we got hard punished. I hex flash in to try and get onto the Ashe. As I'm landing my Q, Pyke's E cancels it, and this is where I would usually flash forward with my passive to trade summoner spells, but of course, we've used that flash already. A costly mistake by me. This also exposes my Kaiser because his lane was pushing. I don't blame him for dying there. That is on me. What I'm trying to tell him here is that I want him to go aggressive. The enemy team did burn their flash. Pyke counters Sion in the lane. So if we don't make a play now and abuse the fact that they don't have flash, we are going to get completely stomped. And I wanted him to abuse that, but unfortunately, the Nunu timed his gank quite well and the Kaiser dies again. From this point on, he's very tilted, understandably, but basically he didn't want to commit to fights anymore. So I don't really have a choice. I need to start roaming and looking for a win condition. Sitting in the bot lane isn't going to do anything for me. I'm going to keep feeding kills to Pyke. I also made a cardinal sin in this game. I saw that the Kaiser was speaking English and this baited me into typing in English, that is. And there's this unspoken rule in Korea that you don't speak English or else everyone is practically just going to run you down. They don't like foreign players on their server, and this game really highlights that quite well. Even though the calls we are making here would be very profitable for our team, they're intentionally not responding to them. They've just unanimously agreed, fuck this person who's foreign, let's just not play the game. This right here was the final straw for this Kaiser. He blamed me for that one when really he should have just waited for my passive to take aggro. From here, there's no point in showing the game because they weren't playing. They were just typing. From this point on, the whole team was just yapping. This is the first time I've ever seen this, by the way. In all the games, this is the only time that I saw them completely going belligerent and just not playing straight up. They were just waiting to forfeit, refusing to help the filthy foreigner. Minus 21 LP, I queued up so fast you wouldn't even believe it. I so badly wanted to verse the people in the last game. That is just unfortunate. We set that up perfectly for the Fiora. All he had to do was allow me to tank it with my passive. There's a small window between Sion dying and the passive spawning where the tower aggro drops. You just have to wait for me to spawn. That's all. It's so easy. Either way, Fiora ends up getting first blood. So we have to assume somehow what we did helped. Graves ends up getting his red buff and coming straight to the bot lane to gank us, but this has an effect that most people won't realize. Because Graves came to the bot lane, his pathing now becomes extremely predictable. So you have to understand, he's revealed in the bot lane, gotten 2 kills, yes, that's great, but now he has to recall and then he's gonna go to the blue side. Elise can take advantage of that. I know it always sounds like to you guys that I'm just making up excuses, but I'm trying to teach you a higher level of thinking when it comes to high elo gameplay. Everything has an opposite reaction. Once you do something on one side of the map, it's going to impact the other side. When we burnt our flash, we got ganked. When he ganked bot, Elise now ganks bot because she knows where he's going to be. That's what makes League of Legends great, but it's also why it's so difficult for you viewers to understand how the game is playing out at times in regards to gold leads. Even though we don't manage to kill Jinx in this position, she does end up having to go base once again. Her health is too low. That means she hasn't farmed a single minion since 2 minutes 30. Just take a look at the farm gap. As a general rule of thumb, it's always good to focus the Lulu and try and separate her from the ADC. In this case though, everything went wrong and both of us die. Elise blames me, but honestly, I don't feel too bad about it. I'm not too certain how Elise plus Aphelios couldn't kill the Jinx by herself. Something must have been misplayed. It does end up giving a little bit of gold back to Jinx, but it wasn't enough to save her. Just a minute later, we comfortably close out this lane. The clock strikes 15 and the enemy team, they forfeit. Now we're up to 81 LP heading into game number 4 where we're playing Sion support. I'm not sure if you have realized this, but somehow every single game we've played today, one way or another, we have been cheesing the enemy at level 1. And this game, it's no different. We managed to steal the small raptors from the grave so he can't get level 2. We also saw him smite it, so I pretend to walk away. This allows him to start the next camp. At this point, we've done quite a lot of damage. We've not only dramatically slowed down Graves' clear time, but we also stole a camp and plenty of smaller minions. It's safe to say that the enemy Graves is pissed. He jumps the wall to try and get our kill, but Thresh's Ignite ticks over and locks up First Blood, which is a nightmare for this Graves. He's now trapped in the pit and is forced to flash the wall. Graves now has to reset. This allowed the Zac to invade his blue side. Three kills onto our Ashe, all the summoner spells from the enemy team. Graves is dead once again. At this point, I would be shocked to lose this game, so I'm thinking that we have the Masters locked up. If the enemy team could surrender, I know they would. If you needed proof of that, look at this Graves. He comes to the bot lane at level 3 to take farm. He has mentally checked out. He is clearly about to run the game down, but then the Thresh gets a clean hook onto our Ashe, and unfortunately, this leads to 2 kills for the enemy team, which keeps their mental in check. The problem the enemy team faces now is that I've seen the weak point on their team. It's this Graves. His mental, it's weak. So if we just keep pushing on that, it's likely he's going to give up. This is such a great example of why if you're tilting, you should just not type anything and just try to play as normal as possible. I'm now crossing over from the bot lane, heading towards top because Graves is trying to gank this Tryndamere. His gank is unsuccessful, and I think we can all figure out where he's gonna go next. We then steal his blue buff and fast forward 3 minutes into the future. Sadly, they managed to stop me. A lot of this game was just me in the enemy jungle messing with the Graves. This did result in me dying a couple of times, but that's the price it took. It allowed all our other laners to just completely dominate without the fear of being ganked. Speaking of getting ganked, the Zac put in a lot of work this game, really taking advantage of that early lead he had over the Graves. Even though we keep winning these team fights, at 19 minutes, we haven't really made much progress on the enemy team's objectives. So far, all of their important towers still stand, and that's mostly because they had amazing wave clear. But without their mid laner, that's no longer an issue for us, and we start pushing through. Tryndamere running the Rift Herald to the tier 2 in the mid lane rather than into the inhibitor is such a smart move here. It's worth so much more gold, and you don't really want to waste it on an inhibitor this early in the game. It does end up getting blocked by Graves, and he kills me too, but that really doesn't matter. I run my passive up to the tower, and as long as my body remains there, I will still get the local gold from it. Somehow we've aced the enemy team without anyone dying, yet they didn't surrender. We've now got the Baron and we're looking to end this one. And here we are, the final game in Korea, ending exactly as I hope it would, systematically taking out all the inhibitors, using the Baron buff to abuse the enemy. We waited for the super minions. There was literally nothing the enemy team could do to come back from that one. GG Korea, we get the victory, locking up Masters right before we had to fly home. Very happy with our progress on this trip. We didn't have much time, and I know it seems like this series went forever, but realistically that was just me being slow at editing. In fact, we were only here for 2 weeks, and the first week was wasted. I didn't play much because of the issues with the account, so we probably played for about 8 days. And towards the end, after we had passed Diamond 3, we flung straight up to Masters, so there's zero chance that we reached our cap. Once I made it back to OCE, I tried playing from here and also won, so technically we capped out at Masters 18, and then the count was deactivated the next day. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this series. It was fun to make, even if it was a little time consuming. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video, which should hopefully be on the new season.